Well, my name is William. Guys call me Juman. I developed that throughout the streets, during my time of my youth. And it stuck with me. I went to prison in 1987, for 2 counts of armed robbery, 5 counts of robbery. I did 31 years, and my 31 years, I've learned a lot, I've seen a lot, done a lot. Can't really say that all my days have been bad in prison because they wasn't. I met some really great people in prison, so that was a plus. I've learned a lot of things from a lot of people in prison, even about myself. In dealing with other people, I learned about myself. I think I really have a great story, to tell. My main focus though is to try to talk to the youngins out there, the young generation, that's coming up, to teach them or to show them, the correct way or the right way of doing things. The ones that feel like they know it all, that they know everything. Trust me, it's a whole world out there that you don't know about, out here and in there. I first went to prison in 1987, and me and my brother was on the same charges. During that time, prison was still, pretty much rough. But for me and my brother, we kind of had a little smooth entry into prison because I already had 4 uncles that was in there, and they pretty much had that reputation. So when me and my brother came in prison, we was pretty much known through our uncle. Each one of us developed our own reputation in prison. It's not something to brag about as far as adapting to prison life back then. It was pretty much, easy for me and my brother. But we did go through our own trials and tribulations. Outside of our uncles. They weren't there with us, every step of the way. So a lot of things that we experienced them and dealt with them on our own. Like I say, going back to 87, when I first got my time, when I was going back and forth through court, thought I was 18, thought I was old, hot shot, thought I was tough, thought I was bad. I had a court-appointed lawyer, Pete Legler. He pretty much worked the deal with the DA to the point where I was gonna end up with 24 months for 2 counts of armed robberies. But me thinking I was tough at the time, I got in court, and when the judge asked me if I had any remorse for the crimes that I committed, I slumped down in the chair, I grabbed my privates, and I say, man, evidently I don't. I did it. And not knowing that I was messing myself up, I was trying to be tough. But instead of the 24 months, I ended up with 45 years. He gave me 20 years on one robbery and 25 years on the other. That was 45 years. And he said that whatever Norfolk gonna do, they just had to do it off of that 45 years. And I looked at my lawyer, and he didn't want to have anything to do with me because he had already worked it out that I would have 24 months. But me thinking that I was tough, thinking that I was bad, I let my mouth get me into trouble, and I ended up with 45 years. I go over to Norfolk. I had Broccoli, as my lawyer. I had a couple of armed robberies, a couple of robberies. Altogether, I ended up with 36 years suspended, 15. And that was added on to the 45 years that I caught in Virginia Beach. That wasn't a good time for me, because, I didn't know how to process that much time, being 18, 66 years. I couldn't process it, at the time. So I started thinking different thoughts, some really bad thoughts during that time. I just didn't care. So by the time I got to prison, I was just all over the place, man. I didn't care what, really happened to me. Not knowing what I was putting my family through out here. Cause they care about me, they love me. But my entry into prison, after getting that much time, my attitude was like I had one of them old, excuse my language, but I had one of them old fuck it attitudes. And I already had a small man complex. So the things that I experienced in prison, I pretty much brought them on myself, trying to be bad, trying not to let people get over on me or thinking that everybody was out to get me in some form or fashion, when it really wasn't like that. I met a lot of good people that was actually trying to help me, But like I said, during that time, being young, inexperienced, in a lot of different, aspects of life, I didn't know how to conduct myself. You had those that they called convicts, you had inmates, you had homosexuals, you had all, some of every kind of people, all walks of life, you had them in prison. And I dealt with each one, based on, my fucking attitude. And I pushed a lot of good people away from me during that time. It was a learning experience throughout the years as I went along. I had a lot of fights. I kept myself in fights. I even had to put shanks or knives in my hand, and I had to, defend myself in situations where I really didn't, in situations that I caused for myself, all because of that attitude that I had. During the old times, the 80s, man, it was rough for me and my brother. It was rough. But like I say, as time went on, I learned a lot. I learned how to control my temper. I learned how to just not take things so personal. I seen how it actually helped me to deal with people. It made it easier for people to deal with me, because I didn't take criticism too well in the beginning. Like I said, and all that comes from my small man complex. Will I take it back right now? If I had to go back and do it all over again, I don't think I would, because that process right there that I went through caused me to be the person that I am now. Like I said, I met a lot of good people in the beginning and in the end throughout my prison sentence. But that time during the 80s, it helped me a lot. I had to go through that, to get where I'm at now. In 1989, I lost my good time. I lost all good time in 1989. I came in the system in 87. Well, 88 when I left the receiving. I was going up for parole in 1996. My mandatory at that time, my good time mandatory at that time was 2027. But my attitude and the way I was carrying it at the time, I lost my good time, and my mandatory shot all the way back to 2052. And that was the only date I had for a long time. My release date during that time when I was, thinking that I was being a convict or whatever, I messed myself up to the point to where my release date ended up being 2052. That was something that I just couldn't even fathom during that time. 1989, here it is, you telling me that my release date, the earliest I can get out, is 2052. So that did a lot to my mental. It made me start doing things that, I wouldn't do. I would have never wanted to pick up no weapon and hit nobody with it or hurt nobody. During that time, I wasn't that type of person. But me thinking that I'm never gonna get out, I started conducting myself in a different manner. Certain parts of prison, certain aspects of prison life make you do that. If you don't have a keen enough mind, to understand what you're going through then that situation will consume you to the point to where you start being somebody else other than yourself. To think that 2052 was the earliest I can get out, you know, it caused me to think about a lot of things, a lot of people, mainly myself. It caused me to look at myself, analyze myself, you know, and how can I change my situation. So here I am, you know, dealing with, you know, trying to accept the fact that, you know, the earliest I'm gonna get out is 2052. I started going up for first parole in 1999, you know, in which they gave me a 3-year deferral. That means that the parole board would not see me again until 3 years later. They already know that they were saying in actuality that it was nothing I can do within the next 3 years that would cause them to give me parole. So they gave me a 3-year deferral, meaning that I would see them 3 years later. So when I seen them 3 years later in 2002, I thought my chances was good. But they turned me down again and told me they would see me next year in 2003. 2003, I ended up on Lawrenceville. And how I ended up on Lawrenceville was because I accidentally killed somebody. You know, I thought I was helping a guy. We was playing basketball one Saturday on the rec yard, and the guy had an aneurysm or something. You know, he fell out and he hit his chin on the clamp of the gate where the gate opened up at to the rec yard, and he broke his jaw. So he was laying on his side, and I could see blood coming out of his mouth, but you know, I thought he was having a seizure. And what I know about people having seizures is that you're supposed to put something on his tongue or your finger on his tongue or something to stop him from swallowing his tongue. We called medical, we got the police to call medical, the officers and everything, but they was taking their time. I was kind of scared that the guy was gonna die. So I felt like I had to take some form of action because medical was taking their time getting there. So I turned him on his back, trying to put my finger, open his mouth, not knowing that his jaw was broke. Put my finger on his tongue to stop him from swallowing his tongue. And the whole time he was choking on his own blood. I didn't know this, you know. And the guy, he looked up at me and took his last breath, you know, and he went out. That happened on a Saturday. Sunday, his family came up to see him and found out he had died. That Monday, they told me to pack my bags. I was being transferred, and that Tuesday I ended up on Lawrenceville. This was in 03. A couple of weeks later, April of 03, I went up for parole the third time. And before the parole board could send me an answer, court and legal stepped in to say I wasn't never supposed to have been going up for parole. I was ineligible on all counts. Now, the court and legal process is different departments of court and legal services, you know. One deal with your classification, which a lot of people know as CCB. One deal with your actually time being computed, you know what I mean, or things of that nature. And one deal with the parole aspect of it. But either way, the department that deal with my time being computed told me that I was never supposed to have been going up for parole. I was ineligible on all counts, which was 2 counts of armed robbery, 5 counts of robbery. Now the law that they put me up under, 151B1-1, which states word for word that any person convicted of 3 or more felony offenses of murder, rape, or robbery by the possession of a firearm or other deadly weapon is ineligible for parole. In order for me to be put up under that law, I would have to had 3 armed robberies, but I only had 2. The fact that I had 5 robberies doesn't put me up under that law, because the law says that any person convicted of 3 or more felony offenses of murder, rape, or robbery by the presenting of a firearm or other deadly weapons. I only had 2 with a firearm. So that law did not apply to me, but they did it anyway. I think that somehow, being that I stepped in thinking that I was helping a guy and a guy died in that incident right there, that they used me, they used me when they transferred me and took away my parole or put me or up under that law. They take my mind away from helping his family with that situation, them neglecting their medical duties. And it worked, because when they took away my parole and told me that the earliest I'd be getting out was 2052, my mind just went haywire. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to expect.
If I'm picking it up correctly, are you saying that you feel like they were blaming you for his death or something like that?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And to keep my mind off of contacting his people or being available for his people or whatever to find out exactly what happened to him, I felt like they just automatic put me up under that law, that no parole law, just to keep my mind occupied away from that. They moved me from off, because like I say, that happened on a Saturday. I didn't have no transfer in. That happened on a Saturday. Sunday, his family came up to visit him. They found out in the visiting room that, or up front, that he was dead. He had died. That Monday, the next day, that Monday, I get packed up, ready for transfer in the morning. I didn't have no transfer in. So where is this coming from? I ended up on Lawrenceville, and like I said, my mentality at, once they did that was like, man, fuck it. I threw away all my legal work. I stopped my family from coming to see me. I didn't want, at that time, I didn't want nobody trying to help me, trying to tell me anything about nothing. And it was only, I got a friend that been my partner from day one of me coming into prison back in '87. He told me in, I guess, '05 or '06, 2006, their contact, he gave me an address and say, man, contact these people, man, try to get your, case back in court, or try to get these people to help you with your parole situation. And I was like, man, I don't, I'm done with it. The people say they're gonna let me go. My earliest I can get out is 2052. So that's what it was to me. I really didn't give a damn what happened. I guess in 2018, I just got tired of this guy just giving me the addresses and telling me to call her. So I actually ended up writing one of the addresses, the address to this reporter, this newspaper reporter for Virginia Pilot. And his name was Tim Eberly. So I ended up writing Tim Eberly, and he ended up getting back with me through the email on the kiosk, and he started asking me about my story, and I told him. The next thing I knew, I was getting a letter from the parole board stating that I would be taken back up for, parole consideration, within the next couple of months. And to keep my nose clean, stay out of trouble and everything. Sure as shit. A couple of months later, I had a parole interview, and a couple of weeks after that, I was granted parole. it didn't really hit me that I was actually getting out after doing 31 years. It never really hit me that I was getting out until one day I was at St. Brad's, the reentry program. This was about, I guess, about 2 or 3 weeks before I actually came home. One of the guys asked me, how do I feel after doing 31 years, man, and now you getting ready to go home? He was like, how do you feel? And I really couldn't tell him how I felt because it didn't seem real. But that's what started me to thinking that, man, I got to start taking this program, this reentry program, serious. Because as much as it don't seem real to me, it's actually real. I'm getting ready to get out, and I need to prepare myself for when I get out. So I think that's what caused me, or that was the start of me taking that reentry program serious, because I knew that once I get out here, that just having family support wasn't gonna be enough. I had to have some kind of drive or ambition within myself to do something, to actually take the initiative, to apply myself out here in society, in a way that won't allow me to go back. And now, every day that I've been out here now less than 90 days. And it's been great. Man, it's been so great since I've been out here. I got a great PO. And I'm gonna tell you something. One of the POs, my PO supervisor, she made a statement to me. She said, POs don't violate offenders. Offenders violate themselves. We don't cause you to go out there and get in trouble or to have a relapse and do this and do that. You do that to yourself. So I thought about that for a long time, man. Every day that I'm out here, when I leave my house right here, in which I'm staying with my sister right now, I thank her for what she doing for me and the support she giving me. But every day that I leave here, I think about that PO told me, Miss Forbes. POs don't violate offenders. Offenders violate themselves by not thinking and going out here getting into whatever they get into. So that's a tool that I use every day that I leave this house. They don't violate me. I violate myself by not thinking. And I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to go back to prison. When I got released, oh man, that day there that I got released, March 21st, this year, 2019, my brother, the same brother that I went to prison with, he got out in 2015. He had basically the same support I got now, staying in this same house I'm staying in now. He came and picked me up, him and one of my nieces. And man, that day, it was raining outside, but to me, oh man, to walk out into the parking lot, I was looking around because I wasn't used to that much freedom, being, out there in that much freedom. But I was so happy, man. I left my state boots, my state jacket, all that right there in the parking lot. I left it right there where the car was parked at. And when we got home, man, it was so many family members right here in this garage right here and in the house waiting on me, man. Had so many different foods to eat and everything, man. It was just so much love. I couldn't really, process it, at the time because it was too much. It was overwhelming for me. I just enjoyed myself, man. That day that I got out, man, I seen so many people, nieces and nephews that I'd never met before that was born while I was in prison. Friends that I haven't seen in 30 years, all was right here, for me. Man, it was it was a good feeling all around, man. I had so many people trying to help me, still trying to help me. I'm working right now, I put in light bulbs all day long. That's all I do. I exchange light bulbs. I go from apartment building to apartment, exchanging light bulbs, exchanging the kitchen and the bathroom aerators. The aerators is the little piece, the filter that come, that the water come out on the end of the faucet. I change those and the light bulbs, and I enjoy doing it. I'm getting paid $10 an hour for it. It ain't much, but hey, man, it keep me from off the streets, and it keep me, wanting to do more, wanting to do better, seek better things for myself, man. It feels good to have a little money in my pocket, and I'm actually seeing that out here now, the sky's the limit, man. If a guy come from out of prison right now and say it's hard, it's because he don't want to get off his ass and do something. That's the main thing, guys got to understand coming out of prison. The only thing hard about coming back out here in society, man, getting your life together, is how you look at your situation. It's plenty of opportunities out here for everybody. It's all in how you approach those opportunities. I could be in college right now. I had so many people, so many different colleges, texting my phone, calling my phone, Centera College, TTI, and all, thanks to Jellicoe. I'm gonna give Jellicoe a shout out. Thanks to him, I got hooked up with these people. I went to TTI. We went to TTI one day. And from there, man, so many different colleges been calling me, texting me, trying to get me to come do learn the HVAC trade or whatever. It was so overwhelming to me that I told each and every one of them, there's too much for me. I think I kind of need to just take my time and get back with them or whatever. But man, it's so many different opportunities out here. If you can't make it out here in society now, today, and I did 31 years. I thought I was gonna come out here and be late to a whole lot of things and not be able to adapt or even relate to people. But man, hey, family support has made it easy for me, and I see right now, the sky's the limit. I want it all. I want as much as I can get, man. My plan is to get back with Centera College and apply for the HVAC trade and take it from there. The sky's the limit for me. The things that have changed out here from 30 years ago is really the same. It's really the same. People are out here working. People are out here, man, just doing them. It's people like the person I was before I went to prison that's in the way, that didn't want anything. But if you want something out of life, it's out here for you. I'm getting it. A piece of the American pie.